home has excellent potential to have good indoor air quality and to be energy efficient. Just need to have the crawl space, air ducts, and attic modified. The roof deck looks in good shape. There's adequate ventilation from the soffits. Soffits being the area where the roof meets the insulation and air is able to come up. There is no ridge vent for it to go out, so we are relying on this fan to take it out. And I have adjusted the humidity up a little bit and the temperature to 100. It doesn't need to run more than that. Also, we have holes where skylights, recessed can lights, plumbing penetrations are through the floor that are not sealed. In addition, we have areas where there's insulation not covering the wood, especially back here in this add-on area where you've been getting cold. This is a very nice storage area. However, if it's not being used, it would be better if it was covered with insulation. Back here are more can lights, which need to be boxed and then air sealed. I have some concern about accessing those later, so you may want to make a pathway back to that area. Here's a can light right here, and these leak a tremendous amount of air and allow bugs to get into the home. So making a little pathway that goes from the ladder, which also needs a insulation jacket on it, but to have a pathway that leads back here in case you ever want to get back there to do some electrical work, and then add insulation in the attic so we have a nice even layer of fiberglass. Under the addition, we have an open vented crawl space in which there's 80% moisture barrier. The problem with having a moisture barrier that doesn't cover all the ground is that bacteria and fungus fight for real estate where there's soil, and then underneath the plastic you get condensation that forms. These droplets of water mixed with the organic matter create an area where all these insects are able to live. Something's been in here. Typically it's slugs. These are signs of cave crickets. This actually would be considered cave cricket infestation at one point. That's all their fecal matter. I don't see any cave crickets currently. Here in the original crawl space, we have metal ductwork as well as duct board for the main trunk. You have a condensation pump that's not in an overflow pan. Again, 80% moisture barrier, bacteria, mold on the side. Here's the low area. So potentially you could have a drain if you kicked it out a good 10 feet. Again, cave cricket markings. This open vented crawl space, we have humidity issues, not extensively, but enough that the insulation gets covered with moisture, and that's why it's dirty. And same with the air ducts. We have enough that the water is able to oxidize the metal on the ducts. In addition, there's mold growth on the ductwork. And then there are penetrations into the floor which are not sealed, so whatever pollutants you have in the crawl space are able to enter the home. Recommend that the moisture barrier be upgraded to an insulation liner, and that liner be ran down the walls and on the ground. and then a treatment goes on the wood to prevent any further mold growth, and then all the holes are properly sealed. Here in the back we have much more extensive mold contamination on the joists as well as the main beam and on the ductwork. There are signs of rodents penetrating into the insulation. Here we have some rainwater entering the foundation vent. We have more mold growth here, extensive on the ductwork as well as up on the joists.
The air handler has the ability to quickly cool and heat the home, but because of air infiltration and lack of insulation, you feel the effects right away when the system goes off. There is currently a poor quality air filter which can be upgraded to a carbon electrostatic filter. One of the returns has air leaks on it, so it's aggressively pulling in air from the crawl space. So you don't want to use a filter that's too restrictive at this time. The dryer vent plug is a concern in that that plug has the ability to pull itself out over time. So it's nice to keep it clean from dust as well as, where did that missing sock go? The attic ladder currently is a little warped and it's not properly insulated, so when it's hot or cold in the attic, that does have an effect on the living area. Insulation in the attic has been displaced. Typically these patterns are caused by rodents that run amok. However, I have not seen any when I was up there. Nice storage area in the attic. If all that is not going to be used, then it is an energy penalty, so it would be advisable to insulate the areas that you're not going to use for storage space. All of the wood should be covered so it's not channeling heat from the attic into the living space. So just more insulation after the holes have been sealed, and then this will be a really nice attic. Nice strong roof. It could handle a huge snow load. I don't know about a tree falling on it, but it is very durable. There are a lot of can lights which allow communication between the living area and the attic. Those can lights should be properly sealed. Air can get into the attic, but unless this fan is operational, air cannot get out. Currently it seems to be working just fine. These pipes and possibly dryer exhaust lines are not sealed, so it's simple to seal those penetrations that occur in the floor so that air and insects are not able to go from the attic into the living space. Here's a shot of a can light. There's a box that fits around these, and then that box is sealed. A little difficult to get to this back area by the fireplace. There are additional can lights back there, and the skylights. It's not a big gap, but all these gaps add up as entry points for bugs, but also for air exchange. In areas where the insulation is discolored, that occurs because of the movement of air. So as I pull the insulation back away from this plumbing vent pipe, you can see a decent sized hole, perfect for rodents or cockroaches to run inside the wall cavity and then into the living space. Filters should be upgraded to a carbon and electrostatic cloth filter to capture gases, chemicals, and odors. This return duct, which is for the new addition, is in nice shape in regards to being sealed and not having excessive dust. The wood burning stove can generate a lot of heat, and used wisely it can warm the entire home. The newer air ducts look clean, however upon closer inspection you can see that even in the new ducts they have been infiltrated by insects, some which have crawled in and died and others that are still feasting. Be nice to have all that cleaned out. And some of the original supply registers have mold on them because in the past there had been moisture issues. Some of the foundation vents have screens that are broken. This has allowed insects and rodents to enter into the crawl space. I think there's enough grade here to have a drain that goes from the crawl space to the outside. That'll help to deal with any flooding that may occur in the crawl space. There should be an additional screen added to this, even though we're going to close the vents permanently, just so that mice are frustrated in trying to get in. There are some issues with the roof gutters and downspouts. This should be taken care of so that we don't build up water pressure around the home. I do have some concerns about major downpours and how that water may approach the garage. Looks like they have created this pathway for water to disperse into a common area, which is good. Nice to have a grade that slopes away from the house instead of to the house, even though there is enough height on the bricks to help prevent water from getting on the siding. There is some water damage on the chimney casing. Ideally that would be cut out and repaired, and the sooner the better. Some areas where the gutters have been overflowing, there's been some rot occurring. Nothing traumatic, but needs to be on the to-do list. Access into this crawl space, this decking, as you know, has had some moisture issues and there's some wood rot. Inside the new addition crawl space is debris. There's an 80% moisture barrier, which is allowing bacteria to grow on the sides. There is evidence of cave cricket infestation at one time. Best practice is going to be to gut this crawl space of everything except the air ducts, and then treat the wood and line the crawl space walls and ground with an insulation blanket. These water issues need to be addressed on the decking, or at least the wood treated with antimicrobial compound to help inhibit the mold growth. Ideally the water issues would be dealt with. There's a large air handler that I think heats and cools the home efficiently, maybe even too fast in regards to cooling, and it might make the home too humid. In addition to making the home humid will be the crawl space. There is exposed soil and it seems dry, but it's dry because that moisture has been absorbed by the house. So we should clean out the debris, upgrade the moisture barrier, clean the mold off of the air ducts and off of all the wood. Essentially wherever mold is growing, need to have it removed. There is some effervescence on the wall. It's minor relative to how long the home has been in operation. In this low area, I'm thinking we can put in a drain, so if water does sneak into the crawl space underneath the liner, it can naturally drain out. There is a water heater down here, and if you decide to have the job permitted, will need to be upgraded. Same as the condensation pump. For it to meet code, it would need to sit into a pan and have a safety switch. I saw evidence that mice had been in the crawl space in the insulation, but I did not see any of the little scurrying varmints. Going back deeper into the crawl space, I see there's water that's coming in that particular foundation vent. This vent ideally would be bricked off, since you're going to go with a closed crawl space, so no water can enter, because it looks like this does get slammed when it rains heavy. The air ducts are made up of 3 different types of material, and the main trunk, that rectangular box, is the biggest concern. This is made up of only fiberglass with a metal lining, and that metal exterior is oxidized because seasonally this gets so wet, and that causes mold to grow on the ductwork as well as eat away at the aluminum. So there's multiple advantages to having a closed crawl space that remains dry. Here's a big gap in the main trunk. This is one way where insects get into the system, and how the ductwork can aggressively pull air from the crawl space into the living area. All the dust on top of the ducts, which is pollen that's come in through the foundation vents, is now supporting mold growth. Here's a shot of the overflow condensation line that's just dripping into the crawl space. That should be plumbed to the outside if you're going to have a closed crawl space. The insulation is discolored because at certain times it is covered with droplets of water. That's why the wire support beams are rusting, and that moisture holds the debris, and then mold can grow on that debris. So ideally all of this insulation is removed. That way I can get the mold off of the exposed wood, as well as any mold that's hidden up above the insulation. This is crucial because there is a lot of water affected building material, a lot of mold growth, and it's able to sneak on into the home through the unsealed plumbing, electrical, and HVAC penetrations in the floor. So this causes a chronic exposure of different types of mold into the home, which we're finding out is not such a good thing. So again, it'd be great to be able to yank all the insulation out, get the mold off, treat the wood with a non-toxic product that comes with a lifetime warranty that there will be no toxic mold growth on the beams. And then instead of putting in a moisture barrier that's just plastic, we put in an insulation liner. That way no insulation goes back in on the subfloor, which is a problem. And then we put a hole in the duct, so eventually we have a way to put dry, conditioned air into your new sealed storage area. This radiant barrier crawl space is guaranteed not to grow mold. It's very difficult for any insects to get in. The only things I'm really concerned about are tradesmen, so we add a secondary layer so we have some support in the areas where there's traffic going to the air handler. And then you end up having a beautiful radiant barrier crawl space, which improves air quality and energy efficiency. I thank you for the opportunity to be of service.